In 2015, the world was rocked by a scandal when billions of dollars vanished from the Malaysian state fund 1MDB, only to be spent on the political activities of a sitting prime minister, shopping sprees for his wife, and the lavish lifestyle of the scam's mysterious mastermind, a Chinese businessman called Joe Lo. But what if I told you that a similar scandal happened nearly 4 decades ago to a different Malaysian bank, one that lost $1 billion in public funds to an elaborate scheme of corruption, false accounting, and sham profits? This is the Big Steal. In 1957, the Malaya Federation, led by the United Malays National Organization Party, or UMNO, broke free from a decade of colonial rule. UMNO went on to govern Malaysia for the next 6 decades under the banner of Ketuanan Melayu, or Malay sovereignty, a system of preference and privileges for indigenous Malays known as Bumiputras. One such institution was Bank Bumiputra Malaysia Berhad, set up to help Malays in the countryside get access to business capital by accepting their land as collateral. In the late 70s, pumped full of state funds, it became the second biggest bank in Southeast Asia and was looking to maximize profits by investing overseas. It set its sights on Hong Kong, which sat at the doorstep of a fast modernizing China and was basking in a real estate boom. Then, a civil engineer by the name of George Tan, who had fled Singapore after his first bankruptcy in 1972, also showed up in Hong Kong. He founded the Carrain Group and made his breakthrough into big money by purchasing a skyscraper for $200 million and reselling it for a 50% profit less than a year later. This blockbuster deal threw Tan into the limelight, earning him the confidence of some 50 international banks. Some bankers, however, questioned his background and the fact that he gave so few interviews and avoided having his picture taken. In an article, a US banker described Tan's operation as too surreal to be believed and even compared him to a used car salesman. Still, many were eager to extend credit to Tan's budding empire, which gave the impression that it was backed by incredibly wealthy investors. What they didn't know was that this backer was none other than Bumiputra Malaysia Finance, the Hong Kong subsidiary of Bank Bumiputra. If you recall, Bank Bumiputra was a state bank with a mandate to favor Malay business. Yet it would end up lending George Tan, who was ethnic Chinese, an eye-popping $1 billion in unsecured loans. Most of the loans would end up in Tan's so-called $2 front companies, which means that if they defaulted, the maximum amount the bank could collect for each loan was only $2. Such an onerous arrangement was only possible because of 3 BMF directors, Hashin Sumsudin, Rais Saniman, and Loren Uzman, who Tan endearingly addressed as Uncle Loren, were all working with Tan from the very beginning. In return, they received bribes and insider tips to buy and sell Carrain shares at big profits. With easy credit, Tan, the big talking financier, clinched deals at plush hotel parties, flanked by a bevy of gorgeous women, as one investigator puts it. In 3 years, the Carrain Group grew to a web of more than 200 subsidiaries that included insurance companies, taxicab franchises, fast food stalls, and travel agencies. A complex system that Tan used to fabricate the success of his organization. This empire building on quicksand was possible because of Hong Kong's lax financial laws at the time, which did not require Tan to disclose the identity of its backers. But as quickly as they were built, Tan's fortunes came crashing down in 1982. In Beijing, negotiations between the British and Chinese were heating up over Hong Kong's future after the 1997 handover. Fear and uncertainty sent property prices plunging, and the Carrain Group simply ran out of money. By this time, BMF's parent bank in Malaysia had sensed that something was amiss and sent a team of auditors led by Jalil Ibrahim to investigate its subsidiary. It didn't take long before Ibrahim realized that BMF officials essentially bankrolled Tan with hundreds of millions of dollars. In a sinister twist, in July 1983, Ibrahim turned up dead in a remote banana plantation in the New Territories of Hong Kong. Reports later revealed that he was murdered for withholding a $4 million BMF loan meant for the Carrain Group. That same year, the Carrain Group collapsed with $1.2 billion of debt. George Tan spent 3 years in prison after a drawn-out court battle. The BBMB directors all served sentences for corruption, but a CIA report raised doubt on whether more senior government officials were culpable in the crime. After all, in a government bank like BBMB, important decisions couldn't be made without the knowledge of the Finance Ministry or Central Bank. Those suspicions were compounded when Prime Minister Mahathir himself tried to withhold the results of a damning probe from the public. That report was later released by Cabinet in 1985. Bank Bumiputra was eventually bailed out by Petronas, the Malaysian state energy monopoly, at a cost of almost $1 billion, money that was meant for the economic development of the Malay community as envisioned in the founding of the bank. But this wasn't the first, nor would it be the last time government bails out politically motivated enterprises. Decades later, at a state fund held by Prime Minister Najib Razak, vast sums borrowed through government bonds would be stolen, chalking up $13 billion in public debt. An affair so costly it would topple the Prime Minister himself, the UMNO government's 60-year rule, and challenge a system of patronage and corruption that has gone unchecked for years.